Okay, good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good day to everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Welcome to Mimi ni Nani. It is a great pleasure to have you attending this virtual event. It's a Youth Power virtual event. Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to spend a few, 3-4 minutes just to welcome everybody. I know we're already on live stream on YouTube, so it's a great pleasure. So just let's warm up a little bit. Let's interact. Let's break the ice and just use the chat to interact and share where we're checking in from so that our facilitators can get to know participants and our participants can get to know each other as well as the facilitators. So welcome everybody. My name is Valencia Masaki and I'm here to be among the hosts that will be taking you through this session as well. So welcome on board and feel comfortable. Okay. So just a few minutes, about 3 minutes, and then we will get started. Let us know where you're checking in from. How are you? And what are you looking forward to gain? Okay, Ugoshi is checking in from New Jersey. Kevin's from Kenya. All right, as I am also checking in from Tanzania. So, okay, let's keep the comments coming. Welcome everyone, it's Youth Power Up event. We are going to be starting soon. If you're streaming from YouTube, you're on the right platform. Just let us know where you're checking in from. If you're from here, just let us know, use the chat. Let's interact. You can put your video on. Okay, let's keep this going. We're just going to be starting soon. Thank you everyone who is checking in. Priscilla, Tatu, Josephine, from Tanzania, Amanda from US, Dr. Marian from Botswana. Okay, please share your expectations as well with us. That would be nice to hear. What do you expect from this event? I know some of you have already been sharing on our WhatsApp group. Some have shared in the registration link. Okay. All right, so we're just going to spend a few more minutes to have more people coming in, and then we are going to be starting. Okay, so there are people who are live streaming from YouTube. We have people from Guinea. Okay, so there are people who are live streaming from YouTube. We have people from Guinea. Oh Lord. Okay, so there are people who are live streaming from YouTube. We have people from Guinea. Okay, so we have some people from Kenya. We have some from Zambia, Paul, Brenda from Kenya, Cheru from Kenya. Okay, that's great. So more people are still joining in. All right. So just as we are waiting for people to join us, please allow me to just share a bit of an intro about Mimi ni Nani. Some of you have just joined into this event and don't know what is this organization, what does it do, and things like that. So I'm just going to be spending a few minutes before we start our session and introducing our facilitators. Just going to be talking a bit about what we do at Mimi ni Nani. Okay, so my apology, I might be all over because I'm working with my colleague who is not online at the moment, but will be assisting me from the background. So just bear with me. Okay. All right. So please let's if you're not speaking, please just put your mic on mute. Okay. Good afternoon, good day to everyone. Once again, I'm Felicia from Mimi ni Nani. If you're just joining in, if you just admit. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we're going to start at exactly 15 minutes past 15. I'm just going to be using this time to introduce everyone, to welcome everyone to join us in this forum. Let us know where you are checking in from. If you're on YouTube or if you're you're joining in via this platform, let us know. Use the chat. Let's interact, and I'll be happy to read your comments as you check in. I am seeing some of you already texting in from who are live streaming from YouTube. So I'm just going to be using this next 3 minutes just to talk a bit about what we do. So if you're not following Mimi ni Nani page or Instagram, YouTube, and you're probably wondering what is this organization about? So we are a human capital development social enterprise, and our mission is all about catalyzing the potential, the leadership of young Africans, just so that they can be change makers, so that they can be more of doers than talkers, so that they can be problem solvers. So you are probably the right candidate for this, and that's why we had this event to have you joining us on board. But we have a number of programs that we are doing. So we are more focused on I would say we are, our elements or our kind of activities are cut across 4 ways, whereby one is through skills training. So we have a number of programs, training programs to equip youth with skills from 12 years old and above. But also we do that, we complement that with exposure and experience necessary, because you might have the skills but do not have the exposure. But also we do provide the support system in terms of mentoring and coaching programs, as well as we know that a lot of young people might have the skills, they might have the exposure, they might have the support system, but do not have links to opportunities, to the market. You know, they don't have links to resources. So we help young people. We're a platform that connects youth to different opportunities and different platforms. And this forum is one of those ways where you can basically meet different people, connect with each other, and really learn more about different opportunities that are out there. So that is basically what we do at Mimi ni Nani, and areas in four focus area that I would say. So one area is on leadership development. The other one is on career building and professional development. And the other area is on leadership development, as well as business development or entrepreneurship. So most of our modules or our training programs, they cut across those areas so that we can equip people to be the best version of themselves. So that's in a nutshell, and I am left with 1 minute. So I'll use this to introduce more people. If you're joining in again, welcome to Youth Power Up event. It's lit, let's make it happening. So let us know, let's interact this afternoon. We're going to be here for a while. So in the first part of the session, if you have received I believe you've received the schedule, you have gone through it. So you're going to be using the first few hours on self-awareness, diving deeper into it, having some discussions around it. And then the first, after we'll have a short break and then get into career talk, career session. So don't leave, stay tuned, and let's interact. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our facilitators for this first part of the session. The first one is Adi from Mavengere from Zimbabwe. So he's going to take us through a session on who am I, linking it with emotional intelligence, a journey of self-awareness, as the session is already up there. So let's give a round of applause. I think you've seen his bio. He's doing amazing work with the Learning Factory, his organization. We're going to learn more about him. So let's give a round of applause as he comes on board. Yay. Welcome, Adi. Please, the floor is yours. We are looking forward to just, having you power us up. We're ready to learn. So welcome, and I'm handing it over to you. Thank you so much for accepting to do this.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to spend my Saturday afternoon with you all. And it's going to be a very interactive session. To get us started, we all introduced ourselves, but I'm going to ask us to all introduce ourselves again. Now you can see I've started my presentation and there's a question up there. The question is, who am I? So lots of us have introduced ourselves. We've said our names, we've said the country we're coming from, but I want you to introduce yourself again. And I want you in your introduction to answer the question, who am I? So please do this really quickly. I want to see the chat blowing up. So right now, quickly, answer the question, who am I? Answer it whichever way it makes sense to you. Let's see the chat going. As we do that, this presentation is going to explore who I am. And the feedback you're giving in the chat is going to inform a lot of the presentation, and it's also going to guide some conversations around that. I need to see the chat blowing up. Please, may you put in your response to that question, who am I? Let's see the chat going, guys. I know some of you have already introduced yourselves, but I've asked, please reintroduce yourself, answering that question, who am I? So let's see the chat going, please. I hope on Facebook we have also people who are putting in their feedback.
Yes, so I'm already here engaging them. So let's look forward to some responses. It's actually on YouTube, so I will be reading out if they keep in it. There's a bit of a delay of like 20 seconds.
Okay, great. I'm a servant leader. I'm Peter. Yes. Keep going with the responses. I'm a change maker. Yes. Who are you? I'm Zoe and I'm a professional teacher. All right. Very good. More feedback, please. Let's get it rolling as quickly as possible. Yeah, I can see I'm an interpreter. I can see your name there. More feedback. There are about 48 of us on this chat, so I expect to see at least 47 responses there. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going with that feedback, because it's really important to have a sense of who you are. We're beginning a journey, and with every journey, especially a journey as important as your career, as the rest of your life, you need to have a very solid starting point. And the starting point with life is understanding who you are. Okay, I'm a teacher, I'm an LLB student, biotech, very good. Communications lead, a teacher by profession, very good. I'm going to give you 1 more minute to conclude this exercise. And then after that 1 minute, I'm going to take you to another slide. I'm a dreamer. Safi, yes, I'm a teacher. Very good. I'm delighted to see that we've got lots of educators in the room. I myself, despite the fact that I studied industrial engineering, I'm an educator. Very good. I can see lots of feedback. That's excellent. Very good. Now, in your responses, a lot of you have introduced yourself and you've answered the question, who am I, by providing your name. A lot of you have provided your profession. Some of you have given other details. Now, when you look at the question, who am I? It's a very fundamental question. It's a question that if you as a leader cannot answer that question, how can you expect to lead other people? So it's not only about leaders, but it's about everyone. If you as an individual cannot answer the question, who am I? How will you excel in any discipline at all? Now, in general, these are some of the ways that we define ourselves, or how we answer the question, who am I? We think about our religion, we think about our education, our occupation, our gender association, the amount of money we have in our pockets, our heritage, which is our surname, which country we come from, and a whole lot of other things of that sort. Now, it's important to understand that these all are parts of who you are. Some of these things are parts of who you are from birth, and some of these things you acquire along the journey. Now, as you define who I am, why it's important to define who I am is because it's going to determine what you can and what you cannot do. So by having a clear sense of who you are, you're able to now introspect on where you want life to take you, or where your life journey is going, and how you're going to make it a success. So starting with the question, who am I? I want you to, if you've already given your response, start thinking about these things. There are a whole lot of other things you can think about. You can think about your roles within society. You can think, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a daughter, I'm a son, I'm a whatever else you could possibly be. I want you to start thinking about this. You've already given your response. For instance, Bertha says, I'm a broadcast engineer. I want you to now start thinking broadly and answer the question, who am I? When you look at your occupation, you look at your religion, you look at your education, your heritage, your roles in society and family, your gender association, and all of these things. Why are we doing this? We're doing this for the purpose of coming to a point where you understand how all of these things influence your life. So you might find that at any given point, one of these aspects may influence your life much more than everything else. And at other points, it's a different thing. But to have a full picture, a bird's eye view of all of this and how it affects your success as a professional, your success as a member of society, you need to have a full view of all of these. So if there's anyone who is willing to reshare who they think they are based on a full view of some of these things, bear in mind, it's not a conclusive list that I've put up there. There's so many things you can think about as well. But just think about who you are in light of what you see on this current slide. And feel free to give your feedback in the chat section so that we get an appreciation of how your perception of yourself has changed just by this slide on its own, by looking at the possibilities of how you define yourself. Let's see the chat blowing up with your feedback. Go ahead and put your feedback based on the slide that I've put up there. Who are you? So we'll give just 2 minutes for this activity because we don't have lots of time to go through today's session, but give whatever feedback you can. Okay, let's see the chat blowing up. Feedback in the chat, please. From YouTube, do we have any feedback?
So we have from the previous question. So we had Brenda who said, my name is Brenda. I'm from Kenya. I'm a student pursuing social work and a human rights activist. And then Paul said, I'm an individual who is looking forward to making a difference in my life and people's lives. So we're looking for more inputs coming.
Okay, great, great. So I can see on the chat that we're getting more feedback. Now, it's important to think about all of these things because at the point you find yourself today, whether you are already in a career or whether you are a student who is looking to start a career, or whether you are in a place of transition, understanding who you are is going to determine how you move on from where you are to a place of what you define as success. Bear in mind, I mentioned what you define as success because to this question, there may be several answers. Different people will answer this question, who am I, for you in different ways. But your understanding of who you are is going to determine where you go and your success. All right, so I can see that the chat has slowed down quite considerably, but in any case, we'll move on. And I've put up a lot of these things. What you need to think about when you think about who am I? Remember, we're talking about self-awareness. Self-awareness is about understanding who you are so that you can relate better with other people. And it's particularly important as a leader because as a leader, there are a few things that are fundamental to leadership. First of all, you have to manage people and you need to get objectives met, right? So in managing people, you need to be able to understand who the people are so that you can manage them well. But how do you manage other people, or how do you understand other people if you don't understand yourself? So that's where we're coming from with this discussion, right? Okay, so I can see there's a question in the chat. I think everyone can see that question there. I'll move on with my presentation as you all attempt to answer that question. And we're going to move on to how should I define myself? Now, there are lots of ways that you can define yourself. I put up in the previous slide your religion, your career, and a whole lot of other things. But what is fundamental to you? When you think about your last day on this earth and you're giving an account of everything that you've done since birth to this last day on earth, if you're giving an account of yourself, what will you say, or who will you say you were on this earth, and what contribution did you make? So these are the really important questions to think about. Someone says, I'm a change maker, for instance. Is that the account you would give as the one statement you would give on your last day on earth. So that is what you should be thinking about in as far as defining yourself. There are lots of things in life that will change, and there are some things which will remain constant. So it's important to think about what is going to change within your lifetime, or what do you want to change within your lifetime, and what is going to remain constant. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Something that's going to remain constant is the fact that I am Zimbabwean, born of Zimbabwean parents, and I cannot change my parents. Right? That will never change. There are things about me that can change. So as I define myself, my parentage, that heritage is something that's always going to be the same. So if my heritage is something that's going to hinder my success or fast track my success, it's something that I have to come to terms with. It's not going to change. There are some things that can change, such as my name. I can go to the registrar of births and deaths and have my name changed. So technically, I am Adi today, and tomorrow I can be Sean. But my parents will never change. That heritage is never going to change. So that's going to define you from birth till death, right? That's something that you need to come to terms with. Secondly, you need to think about what's important to me. Now, as you define yourself, you need to consider, in life, you have lots of different experiences. Some of the experiences you have in life are going to be passing fads. And some of the experiences you have are going to be very important. They're going to direct your life in a particular way, and that should particularly form who you are. And when you think about what's important to me, for a lot of people, they are faith, religion, traditions, customs, a whole lot of different things can be important to you. And bear in mind, if you look at the bottom of the slide, it says, note well, only you can decide and define these things. So what's important to you, you need to have a clear sense of what's important to you. So for me, what's important and fundamental as I conduct my work as a leader, as I go about my business as a family man, as I do whatever I do, there are certain things that are important to me. The most important thing to me is family. So that's important and defines me, because as I think of career, as I think of any endeavor that I undertake, it should not hinder my role or my work or my contribution to family. And that's why we're having this discussion, so that you understand how all of these things influence who you are and affect your leadership ability. So next question is, what is my purpose? And I'm going to ask you to throw in the chat an answer to that. What is my purpose? Now, as you think about what is your purpose, you need to really take time to think on this question. It's something that's absolutely important, because sometime later in your life, you might discover that you have been going about your life, your career, pretty much just dabbling in a whole lot of things, but not doing what absolutely fills your heart, what absolutely makes you happy. So it's important to have an appreciation of what's your purpose early on. And this is a question that is very difficult to answer. It's a question that you need to keep at the back of your mind. It's a question that's important, because as a leader, you will come across lots of different situations which test you, which test your character, which test your intellect, your experience, and so forth. And understanding what's important, what's my purpose, how do I see myself, and all of these questions which are presented on this slide are actually going to determine how you engage in situations, how you manage situations and get out of them successfully. So that is something worth thinking about. If you've got any questions relating to the questions, or any queries, anything you want me to elaborate relating to this particular slide, please feel free to pop your question in the chat, and we'll move on to what should not define me. So what shouldn't define me? What can I change? So today I am poor, tomorrow I could be rich. That should not define me. Today I'm not a leader, tomorrow I could be a leader. That should not define me. Today I am a leader, tomorrow I might not be a leader. So bear in mind that today you might be a biotech scientist, tomorrow you might not be. So have a clear sense of what should define you, because some things are changeable, and in an instant, some of these things can affect you. So bear in mind that as you go through your life, there are some things which are temporary and some things which are permanent. That's things that you cannot change, that you have to come to terms with. So look at those other three questions on that slide. What must I accept and come to terms with? I talked about I can't change my parents. There are certain things which you simply just have to come to terms with. What must I change? These are things that you look at your life and say, I am really lazy, or I am indisciplined, and you define yourself around that. Those are things that you should change. And what must I dissociate from? Friends, addiction to social media, and things of that sort, which define you. You define yourself by your friends or your followers on social media. Things of that sort should not define who you are. And once you have a clear understanding of what should define me and what shouldn't define me, you are on your way to becoming a successful leader. Now we're going to jump a couple of steps and we're going to talk about self-awareness. And when we talk about self-awareness, I want you to think on this slide here. So when you come to self-awareness, there are two ways of seeing yourself. First, you can see yourself from other people's perspective, which is what's on this slide right here. And secondly, you can see yourself from your own perspective. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about this, but I want you to take 1 minute to just go through these questions here. And I'm going to change to the last slide where we're looking at how do you see yourself. You'll see that the questions are really similar. And why it's important to have a clear sense of this is because there are times where the way people see you and the way you see yourself can be very different. And sometimes people see more of you than you see of yourself. And sometimes they see less of you than you see of yourself. So it's important to, as you think about self-awareness, look at the way people see you and align it to the way you see yourself. Where there is a disparity, there is an opportunity for you to now come to a self-awareness of who you are. To now drill deep and see who is the real me based on what people see and what I see. So at this point, I'm going to invite you to pop in the chat any questions you have as I come towards the end of my presentation. Just look at this last slide I've got here, which is asking you to consider yourself. You're now looking at yourself and you're thinking, where do I excel? What are the things that drain me? And these kinds of questions which help you get a better sense of who you are. Now, this exercise is absolutely important, and I would love for you to, after this presentation, go through all of the questions that have been presented from the first slide that I've shared to the last slide, and look at every single question, thinking about, as I define who I am, what am I great at, for instance? These are things that we don't often think about, but it's absolutely important to think about them as we think about who I am. Remember, we're thinking about who I am because once I know who I am, I'm able to excel as a leader. I'm able to lead other people. So I'll just go to the one question we've got in the chat right now, and I'm going to conclude my presentation by taking questions from the chat. I have a few more slides, but we're not going to go into detail of that. Those will be shared with you. And I'll just entertain a few questions on chat so that we have a bit of engagement before the end. I know we're going to have a panel discussion where we'll have more engagement, but just think about everything that I've spoken about till this point as we lead into the next presentation. So I see Jeremy says, in which perspective one should define his purpose effectively. So that is a very interesting question. And bear in mind, a lot of the questions that I've put up in my presentation so far are questions which are very open-ended, questions which don't have a clear answer. And that's very intentional. When you look at a question like, what is my purpose? You can define it in so many different ways. And that process of thinking about what is my purpose from a religious perspective, from a career perspective, and all of the other perspectives is very important to help you come to a place where you now fully understand yourself. So you're going to iterate and you're going to think about all of these things. And that process of thinking, that process of narrowing down is where the value lies in coming up to the definition of who I am. Yeah, what can I never get bored of doing? Very interesting question, right? And similarly, these are questions that no one person can give the same answer to the next person. And you can think about a whole lot of other questions. These are some questions which I thought about as I was working on my presentation and in previous experience. But just think about a whole lot of other things. What are my pet peeves? What stresses me out? What makes me happy? What puts a smile on my face? All of these kinds of questions, which may seem rather silly at times or open-ended, help you come to a point where you begin to understand who you are. Is there a way of measuring self-awareness? No, there isn't. There is absolutely no way of measuring self-awareness. Self-awareness is a process that begins at birth and ends on your last day on the earth. Now, self-awareness happens consciously. So you might not have thought about self-awareness before today, but from today onwards, you're now actively thinking about self-awareness. You're now thinking from the conversation you had and the argument you had, what triggered that? You're now becoming self-aware. Previously, you might have gone through an argument with someone and not thought about what triggered that, what made me get into that argument. But now, as you think about things of that sort, you are coming to a place of self-awareness. Self-awareness is a journey. Self-awareness, at least for some of you, has started today, and it's a journey that you should take every single day. I'll just, as I entertain questions, look at how you can develop self-awareness. All right, so that last slide there is going to give you some ways of thinking about how to develop self-awareness, but remember, it's a journey. Okay, I saw, how long did it take you to answer the question, who am I? To be honest, it's a question that you answer every day, and every day the answer may be different. So because life is a journey, because self-awareness is a journey, what defines you today is going to be different from tomorrow, because between today and tomorrow, you've had experiences. The experiences you have today are going to shape a different you. So it's important to understand what is important to you. So those things that are important are probably not going to change very easily or very often, but that answer is going to be different today from 10 years from now, and so on. So my time is up. I am going to ask the moderator if we're going to be allowed to entertain any more questions, or if we'll take them to the panel discussion at this point. But it's been great having you engage. I can see there are lots of questions, which I will definitely go into the chat and answer as many of those questions as I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adi. A round of applause to you. Thank you so much for taking us through such a very big topic in a very short time. So I hope individuals are really steered, or they're really challenged to take on this journey of self-awareness. And you have just addressed those questions very, very correctly. So I will now ask that all participants can just keep the questions coming in. Let's just share them, whether you're on YouTube or you're on this platform, just share the questions, and then we'll have a panel discussion after the second speaker has taken us through the other part about self-esteem and how we can boost our confidence. You know, these questions that Adi has just, you know, spoken about, these issues, they set the foundation. Once we go through a journey of figuring out who we truly are, you know, then it gives us that confidence. It gives us that self-esteem, you know, to really do more and seek more of what is out there. So without further ado, let me welcome our next speaker, our next presenter, our next facilitator, Daniel Mlabwa, all the way from Tanzania. So Danny, I hope you're very much ready.
Yes, Felicia, I'm very much ready.
Okay. See, you're on the road. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. So please, everyone, let's use the chat. Let's interact. What have we learned? Just one thing you learned from the previous session and what you're looking forward to learn in this one. If you have any struggles around self-esteem, around confidence, right? So let's share while Danny is taking us through. So Danny, are you going to put up your presentation or should I?
Yeah, I'll appreciate if you walk me through.
All right. So let me just share it. Okay. So I hope everyone is enjoying this. There you are.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Adi, thank you so much. Your session was very insightful, and in fact, it has answered some questions. So at least I'm going to flow with that. Yeah, so we are going to speak about self-awareness for higher self-esteem and confidence. Adi has spoken about that and about self-awareness and everything. Now, what we're going to look is how does self-awareness lead us to have higher self-esteem and confidence? So we can go to the next slide, the third one. Yeah, the other one. Yes, so we are. The first thing we're going to do is that Adi has already defined what self-awareness is. So we just look at that in a nutshell. It's actually the ability to tune into yourself. You know yourself. It's the whole meaning of self. Self is about you. So it's the ability to tune into yourself or to connect to yourself, your personality, your feelings, your thoughts, your actions. What is it that you can do well? What is it that you're struggling with? What is it that doesn't go so well with you? And also the second thing is that we're going to talk about self-esteem. Self-esteem, we can say it's an opinion about yourself. What do you say about yourself, or how do you perceive yourself? Adi has spoken. Sometimes maybe there's a way other people speak about you and all that. So self-esteem, again, is about you. It's about yourself. So basically, these are about three things. It's about your personalities, your behavior, sometimes about your environment and all that. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. So the big question is, Felicia introduced Mimi and Nani when we were starting, and Adi introduced us and walked us through about who am I, who are you really? It's all about self-awareness, but the big question is, why is it important anyway to be self-aware about yourself? So we are going to look at this question: why self-awareness is important for self-esteem and confidence. From the introduction that we just heard from the previous representation, we can see that there are a lot of things that self-awareness helps us with. So in a nutshell, I'm just going to talk about three things that self-awareness helps us with. From the questions that Adi was asking, and if you truly followed up, even if you didn't answer on chat or you didn't comment on YouTube and all that, but you had the answers to yourself, one thing is common is that the questions somehow trigger some sort of personal understanding about yourself, about who you truly are. And that is what self-awareness does to us. So one of the things why self-awareness is important is that self-awareness helps us to understand our strengths and our challenges. Just knowing yourself that, okay, these are my strengths. For example, one may say that my strength is speaking in public, or the other person may say my strength is on writing. I can write, I can do all this. Just understanding that aspect of yourself, that is a great boost to your confidence and to your self-esteem. So through self-awareness, we get to understand on what are the things that we are very strong at, and what are the other things that we have our limitations. And just to highlight it, sometimes a lot of us know about our limitations, know about our strength, but they become a limiting factor to us. So through self-awareness, at least knowing what you can do and what you cannot do, or what you can do but with minimum efficiency, it's a great boost. At least you know yourself that, okay, this is how I view myself. I view myself that I'm not a good writer, but that may not be a problem. Maybe I'm not a good writer, but I'm a good speaker. That is one aspect that self-awareness helps us with. The second thing that self-awareness does is that self-awareness, it helps us develop a growth mindset, and it helps know what helps us thrive or do well. Again, I will make a citation from what Adi was presenting, and I think the last slide or last but one slide, there were several questions. What are the things that drain my energy? Who are the people that boost my energy? Who are the people that maybe I get easily with, and all that? All that helps you understand what environment helps you thrive. And once you know what environment helps you thrive, then I can say it's directly connected to how confident you become. Because at the end of the day, when you know that in this environment I'm going to do well, and in this environment, no, I'm not going to do well. In this environment, in order for me to do well, I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Automatically, that is a plus to you. So this is why we are insisting that it's very important for someone to be self-aware. Once you're self-aware, you start having that growth mindset. Growth mindset comes from the fact that you even know your limitations, you even know your challenges. So you know that, for example, I'm limited in the way I present, or I'm limited in my language. Because you're self-aware about that, it's very easy for you to tackle that or to do something in order to improve that. And the last, but it's not the least, is that self-awareness helps us to understand how we see ourselves may be different from how others see us. One of the things we'll see in the next slides, one of the things that mainly brings people's self-confidence down, self-esteem becomes very low, is the opinion of others. Sometimes the way people see us or the way people speak about us brings us down. But once we are self-aware, we can easily understand that maybe the way I perceive myself may not be exactly how other people perceive myself. And I'm carrying the assumption that I'm speaking to future leaders, future entrepreneurs, future politicians, future presidents. One thing is for sure is that even in our current society, sometimes you may find two different people all speaking about the same person, but speaking about them very differently. So this shows that sometimes maybe the way you think you are, maybe you think you are very good in writing, maybe you think you're very good in speaking. Sometimes the people around you may not see that. And as a leader, it's very important to know what others think about you. Because sometimes maybe you think people like you, or maybe you think people think you are very good at this, but in reality, it can be the difference. So in just understanding these three things, just understanding and being able to answer these questions, they directly relate to our self-esteem and our confidence. So this is why we are truly insisting that one needs to be self-aware. Next slide. Yes, so the other slide I spoke about why is it really important. Okay, someone is saying they can't hear me. I hope the rest can hear me. Okay, so
Yes, we can hear you, Danny.
okay, thank you. So the other one, we were trying to see why is it important to understand about self-esteem and all that. Now, we are speaking about this maybe because somewhere at some point in our lives, there were some triggers that maybe led us to have low self-esteem. We have low confidence. And what are the consequences of having low self-esteem and low confidence? So maybe I can just say this. First of all, it's not a problem having low self-esteem or low confidence. At least knowing that your self-esteem is very low and your confidence is very low, to me, I see that as a plus, because at least you know that something is not okay with who you want to be or with who you are. So knowing that is, to me, I find it as a plus. And it's good that you know, maybe I'm having a low self-esteem, maybe my confidence is very low. But the question is, where does it come from? Sometimes in some things in life, in order for you to understand why they are, at least you need to know where they came from. So speaking about low self-esteem and low confidence, I'll just try to highlight some of the things. There may be a lot of things that may bring about someone having low self-esteem and low confidence, but these are some of the things. So where does it all come from? Low self-esteem. There are some people who experience low self-esteem and low confidence because of their childhood experiences. For example, there are people, especially in our African setup, during your child growth and everything, whatever that you did, maybe your parents were crushing you, or whatever that you wanted to try, you were facing a lot of abuse, you're facing a lot of harsh treatment. Maybe if you wanted to speak your ideas or how you view things, you were punished for that. And in whatever that you were supposed to do, whatever you were told to do, you were just supposed to be a yes person. You're not even maybe you are not even allowed to ask why and everything. And from how I've seen, from example from my own experiences, that that sometimes can bring about low self-confidence. Now, I remember when I was growing up, sometimes we were just getting punished, and it reached a point when we just got this confidence and asked our parents, like, okay, after you punish us, how does it help us? The first days when we asked that, it was like adding petrol to a burning fire. But after some time, they at least understood. And to be frank, that changed everything about my confidence and about my self-esteem. Because finally I could ask things, I could say things in confidence and all that. Then the second thing is that sometimes it's because of our past mistakes. Maybe you were very confident, maybe at work or at home, in office and anywhere, you were very confident about things. Then you did something that did not go well, and everyone was like, see, we told you you can do this. Now look at what you have caused. So that can also trigger low self-confidence. And from my example, for example, I was working previously, I was working at CRDB Bank, which in terms of asset valuation, it's the biggest bank in Tanzania, with assets about 3 billion US dollars. So in one of, I was a database administrator, and there was a database that is dealing with card transactions, these MasterCard, Visa, American Express, I don't know, all these cards, the transaction are going through. So one day I was supposed to take a backup of that database, and unfortunately, I deleted the entire backup. So that thing really brought down my self-confidence, and I could not do anything for like 1 week. Whenever I started to touch the database, I did not do anything. So that too can lower your self-confidence. But sometimes diseases, doubts, and all that. For example, there was a time I had a hearing loss, and I lost my confidence because sometimes people were asking me things and I was answering very different things from the ones they asked. But sometimes it's also lack of self-awareness. You do not know yourself, so you cannot be confident. So these are just triggers, but what are the consequences? Consequences of having low self-confidence, some of them that are very visible, they are poor performance. Sometimes you won't be able to perform well. The other consequences, increased vulnerability. Sometimes I meet a lot of people who are very vulnerable because they are not confident, they have very low self-esteem, so they think they cannot get anything. And unfortunately, in a culture like Africa, sometimes people use this, especially against women, that because you are not confident about yourself, how about maybe we have a relationship so that I can give you this work? How about we sleep together and all that? Then some people, they have anxiety and depression. You may be told to make a presentation and then you are sweating, you are shaking, you cannot do anything, or you're just depressed about it. Sometimes people want to distance themselves. You don't want to be close to people because you're not confident. But the other thing is that sometimes we have the imposter syndrome. You're trying to create an image of who you really not are. You can go to the next slide. Uh, yes, so we have seen, we have the triggers and we have the consequences, but we're in a world where there's too much of self-doubt. So we're going to see how to build confidence in a world of too much self-doubt and external conflicts. This is after this, the next slide will be the last one. So the first thing is to develop your self-awareness. Answer those questions that Adi was asking. Answer questions about yourself. Answer questions about the people around you. Answer those questions. As much as tough or uncomfortable they may be, just answer them. It's very good for you to be critical of yourself or to take those tough answers than live in an imposter syndrome. Then the other thing is that challenge yourself and develop your internal locus of control. So what it means by internal locus of control? Internal locus of control is the ability for someone to do things from internal push. Like you just want to do something. You don't need people to push you. Hey, make Mimi Nani go viral. Hey, go and register Mimi Nani and all that. No, you just have to develop that and do things from yourself. That you're going to say, okay, from now on, I'm going to change this. Then the other thing is that sometimes a lot of people who have self-doubt and low self-esteem, we have a habit of detaching from ourselves. It's what I call the imposter syndrome. So find time and connect yourself. Sometimes, for example, I travel. I can just travel and go somewhere in the bush and just stay there. I connect with myself. I have meetings with my own mind. It's like a board meeting. I connect with myself that, Danny, you're not doing this well. Danny, this, no. Danny, you are saying this, but this, no. Danny, this habit of finance, this, no. Just connect with yourself. Then the other thing, connect with others. You have friends, you have families, because these people sometimes may see you in a way that you do not see yourself. I saw in chat someone was asking about the Johari window. One aspect of the Johari window is that there's an aspect where others know you and you do not know yourself. For example, there's a way Felicia spoke about me. I never saw myself back in the days, and that changed a lot of things about me. So once you do that, that is a great filter of all these negative opinions, thoughts, and everything. And then when you filter them all out, that is who you're going to be. So the next slide. Yes, these are tips to boost self-esteem. We have seen that, though the previous slide is we are talking about the world and everything. So these tips that I'm going to share with you, I've said wash, rinse, and repeat. And that is like a jargon for do it continuously. Somebody asked Adi in the last presentation that when did you finally answer the question, who am I? And he said it's a continuous question. So if these tips that I'm sharing with you, these are things that we continue doing. Sometimes who we thought we are or how we were maybe 2 years ago may not be who we truly are right now. And maybe our self-esteem 2 or 3 years ago may be different from right now because we change environment, we move from offices to offices, we go from one year to another year in school and all that. So I'm going to share with you these tips. These are the ones that have worked for me. The first thing is you need to identify your positives and acknowledge them. The positives is the things that you know you're good at. Now you have to draw the line between acknowledging your positives and being egoistic. You do not have to have that ego, but just acknowledge that, okay, these are my positives. These I'm good at this. These are the things that I can build upon. And also, as you identify your positives, also identify your negatives and work on them. For example, you may just say, I am not good at keeping promises. Now, the challenge is maybe a lot of us sometimes we identify just the wrong things. Oh, no, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. I cannot do this. If you identify a lot of negative things, then it's time you start seeing the positive in yourself. You can say, okay, maybe I'm good at this. I'm good at this. Just identify them and acknowledge them. The second thing is focus on what you can manage and control. Adi said there are some things we can change and there are some things we cannot change. Now, for example, sometimes I'm having a problem of stammering. Maybe when I was speaking, there was a point I stammered. I don't know. That is something that maybe I cannot change. In hospitals, they just say therapy, or maybe in faith, they just say pray and all that. But it's not something that maybe I cannot change. But it's something that I think I can manage and control. I can control the way how I speak, on how I take pauses in speaking and all that. Then the other things that maybe they are there, but I cannot manage and I cannot control. Those are things that I just to accept that they are there. Maybe I cannot do anything about them. So when your self-esteem is low, just do the things that you know, this one I can manage and this I can control. For example, you can manage to stay away from negative friends and all that. The third tip is be you. You don't have to be an imposter. Be you, do you. Stop comparing yourself to others. I cannot be Felicia. Felicia cannot be me. I cannot be Adi. Adi cannot be me. It's just normal. And I cannot say that I'm comparing myself with someone. It's good. Sometimes maybe you can compare what they do with what you do if they align, and maybe you can take that as a push for you to do better. But do not want to imitate someone else. If you're not good at writing, just say I'm not good at writing. I remember I once tried business, and I once told my colleague, you know what? I'm good at talking, I'm good at thinking, and I'm a very good thinker. But I should acknowledge the fact that at documentation, I'm not very good. This was something that was very tough, especially given the roles I was doing and all that, but it's something that I just acknowledge. So even with you, if you're having a low self-esteem, just be you, do you. And in being you, we are taking the other point, be assertive. Communicate your needs, wants. I've bolded feelings and beliefs because these are things that sometimes we suppress them. Feelings, beliefs, opinions in a direct and honest manner. So, for example, after I suffered hearing loss, I told people, if you want to speak to me and you want me to hear you well, first of all, make sure I've heard you. And for you not to speak loudly and waste your voice and all that, speak to my left ear, because my right ear is a little bit of a mess. That was my need. And even in office, I told them, when you are arranging people, because we're moving offices, make sure you put me on the right side of people so that they can speak to my left. The other thing I'm finishing up is train yourself to say no. There are some things that drain your energy. There are some things that whenever you do, they just bring you down. Maybe there are some things that you are just forcing yourself to do them, but whenever you do them, you feel like, oh crap, why did I do them? Train yourself to say no. Other thing is, to err is human. We make mistakes. Don't put all that burden on yourself. Just acknowledge that as a human being, there's a point and there's a day and there's somewhere you will make a mistake. Just forgive yourself, and to just understand to do that is very human. You are not God, you're not an angel, you're not anybody. So forgive yourself and move on. And the other thing, the last thing, find a supportive and an accountable circle. Some people who will tell you, you know what, man, this is so low. You don't have to do this. People who you will be free to tell them, hey, I cannot come there because I do not have a penny. I just have my clothes and me. those are some of the things. They are little things, but because they happen to us on a daily basis, sometimes they bring your self-confidence down. So when you master that, and when you have a circle that you can be honest with them, and they can be honest with you, that is really going to help you. And to finalize, on the next slide, this is something that Adi said, but I'm just going to leave it. Don't answer me, just answer to yourself. Without saying what you do or work on daily basis, can you describe yourself in 1 minute? Don't say I'm this, I'm an accountant. That is the profession. Just you, your self-awareness, your personality, and yourself. Can you answer that? So that's it from me. And thank you very much. I hope I was able to add something to you. Yeah, thank you, Felicia.
Thank you so much, Danny. That was a wonderful presentation. Taking on from Adi, it was very powerful, and I feel myself so much uplifted and just was just going through the pointers and just, you know, self-assessing as well, like where am I from, and where I'm going. So thank you so much. I believe our participants have been benefiting so much from this session. And I must say, just what you just ended there, like you know, I would sit in interviews or meeting young people, and we ask them to describe themselves in just a few sentences where, you know, they're just supposed to be comfortable. But as you say, that's all they're saying, like their name or probably what they do, and they forget about all the things that really make them awesome, things that they're passionate about. So I think from these two sessions that we've just covered really will help us to take some time to reflect and just see ourselves for who we're really made of, you know, and for the things that are yet to be discovered, or the things that we enjoy about ourselves. And I must say, like, there is so much about us that we don't usually share with the world, and those are the things that really interest other people. So thank you so much, Danny and Adi, for such wonderful presentations. Now I'm just going to have us we have like 5, okay, now it's 1 or 2 minutes, just a little break, but rather we're moving to the next part of this first part of the session on self-awareness, where we are having our panelists joining us. So we are going to just share a bit of questions and just having a conversation around self-awareness in a more practical way. I know you've been getting some insights, but let's open up a bit more. Our dear participants who are on YouTube and here on Zoom, you know, let's discuss about the issues that we have around self-awareness. And I want us to use the chat. I've seen some people on YouTube who have shared a bit more, you know, questions around purpose and things like that. So we have also a few questions as well for our panelists. So that is Adi. We have already seen Adi. You have seen Daniel Mlabwa. So I'll have Kevin's and Amanda joining us as well in this panel discussion. So maybe I'll just ask, it was I who was sharing. I should stop sharing. I was actually going to say, Nani, please, if you could just drop the presentation. All right, so we have Amanda Hellman, Dr. Amanda Hellman, all the way from United States. We have Kevin Strandegg from Kenya. So we are going to expound self-awareness. We have seen the introductory part. We have seen, a general overview, those key questions. And then we have seen the part on self-esteem and confidence. Now we are going to be covering like a bit more on areas of healing. You know, Danny mentioned something about what are the triggers or what are the causes, the sources that really lead to you having lower self-esteem or lower confidence. And those things are attached to some of the things that you experienced in the past. So probably you never healed or you never overcame them. So Amanda will be touching a bit on that. And then Adi and Danny again shared something about, you know, having confidence to really showcase, present yourself. As you young people, most of you, I think, are in university or you're studying currently, or most of you are looking for jobs, or you're running your own businesses, or you're working somewhere. So you're always looking for opportunities to do more or be more, right? So I'm sure you're applying for jobs, you're applying for different opportunities. So how do you best brand yourself? How do you best communicate yourself? When you meet a potential client, when you meet a potential customer, how do you really make sure that, you know, you're self-aware about what you are, what you're doing and how do you sell yourself. So Kevin's will be just taking us through that part of how best to package ourselves, to brand ourselves and communicate it right with regards to, it has to start from self-awareness. How well do you know yourself? What's your value? How worth are you? And that helps you to negotiate better or to have these conversations better. So that's what we are going to be doing. And I hope you're as excited as I am. So let me just not take any time. I hope you're in a place where you can just have a glass of water. We'll have a bit of a bigger break a bit later. So now let me just use this opportunity to have Amanda and Kevin's joining us. So Amanda, maybe you'll start. Dr. Amanda will start in just a brief introduction. Tell us about what you do, and then I'll have Kevin's, and then we'll get back to questions while Adi and Danny join us. Thank you.
Thanks. So hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Felicia and team. My name is Dr. Amanda Hellman. I am from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, in the United States, and I had the pleasure to meet Felicia when they had the Mandela Fellowship here at Lehigh University. And so I am an adjunct professor. I teach a course, usually a course per semester, an education consultant, and really do coaching around trauma recovery, mental health. And I have my own business called Healthy Roots LLC. And my passion is empower children, teens, and adults to really find their voice, really heal from the past, emotional pain, to launch into who you really are called to be in this world. So it's really a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amanda. Kevin's, are you there? Would you like to take on from here?
All right. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Dr. Amanda. And thank you to you two, Adi and Dan, who came in previously for such a terrific way of setting pace to us. My name is Kevins Randiek. I am in Kenya at the moment, in Nairobi. Was born in a place called Nakuru within the Rift Valley region of the Republic of Kenya. And I ended up doing so much of my upbringing was in a town called Kericho County, which is famously renowned for tea plantations. My background is in communications in the media technology. I, however, work full-time as a self-employed person. I do run an organization called Branke Integrated Marketing and Communications Limited. And as I just listened to Danny and Adi, and remember participant, I said I was brought up in a county which is actually famously known for tea plantation. What I do right now from a branding and communications perspective has been from a journey of rediscovering myself, repositioning myself, and identifying myself with areas I'm passionate about as a person. Let me probably attempt and link it up to what Adi mentioned earlier. Adi mentioned something around, if you're told to describe yourself, how will you describe yourself as a person? And if I attempt to link it up to what Daniel has alluded to, how confident are you with that great area of specialization that you are in? How confident are you with your, either when you work as a teacher, when you work as an intern, how best are you already cultivating that area of confidence in yourself, whereby if today Dr. Amanda asks you, hey, what do you do? Will you confidently say that I am an intern working with Nani, or you'll blabber by saying I'm looking for a job? And that's basically where the process of branding yourself with your passion starts. So as we progress further, we'll tend to probably link the whole perspective of branding, why it's important, and probably I'll take you through some of the small steps in which, if you've never been taking your brand as a serious, if you've never been taking your brand seriously, then I urge you today to start with the small requisite steps. And one of these particular steps will be, hey, can you confidently say that I am Beatrice Chakali, and this is what I do? So probably we'll be exploring much of that, and I hope we can pass something concrete that you can get out with today. Thank you, Felicia, and back to you.
Thank you, Kevins. All right, so now I'm just going to be asking questions, and then, we will just having our panelists chipping in. as well as we'll be collecting more questions from you guys, what you've been learning, what you've learned from the backgrounds of what our facilitators and panelists do. We'll be happy to read them out. So let me start with the first question to Dr. Amanda. As we have heard from the previous presentations, I think, Nani even gave an example where I think in most African countries, I would say, or practices, you find that you're raised up in a way that you you get punished, or you go through stuff that are probably not very good experiences at times, but it's part of being raised up. And sometimes you don't really question them, or you don't speak up about them, or you don't address them because it's just not supposed to be that way. Or it's like, it's unheard of. So we grow up with a lot of unaddressed issues, and they make us who we are, all right? And they affect our performance. So since you're good in that area, how do you help most of us to first understand what are the damages of that? Like, how does that impact our well-being and things like that, not addressing the issues, our upbringing, the traumatic experiences and things like that? And maybe you can also, how does someone heal from those experiences? And maybe, just share, and then probably other panelists can as well add to that.
Sure. Thank you. Sure. And I first want to say that the first two presentations really lead into what I'll be sharing on. For example, Addie had shared about who am I? That's identity. And our identity can be impacted by trauma. And I'll share some parts of that. There's a whole bunch I could go into, probably a whole day. But that is important because things that happen in our individual life, as well as our family line generationally, impact who we think we actually are. And it can really sway it. We can actually have our wounds think that that's our identity. The second thing with Daniel, he had shared, right, even about our past childhood events, right, things that may happen, different painful moments we've had as events. And that is part of the psychology of it. There's different groups, but really our childhood events, if you think about it, like a chain, right? Whatever initial event happened, if we had perceived, and perceiving our feelings matter, but if we perceive something even as a child, if it was never addressed and we never had the voice to say, this is how we felt, right? And this happens not necessarily just in African families, but I've seen it across the world, but especially when we feel like as a child or say, nope, you have to be quiet, right? You have to be silent about it. There's something with our voice box that has us say, oh, maybe that didn't matter, right? Or I'm not worthy, or that I have to perform, right? A lot of times what happens out of that is that if we don't get the response, or we don't get to share our feelings, or we don't have that healthy connection, we keep trying to perform, right? Keep trying to be that performance to get that approval, to get that love and acceptance. And so what happens is every time that we feel like we're not heard, we may respond. It's called, right, emotional triggers, or maybe you're not sure that. And that trigger is where all of a sudden it takes us back to events that even as an adult, if there's something that happens, I've learned over time what are some of those feelings I've had. And then I can release it. And then I'm not responding like I used to. And so some things that may help, right, is identifying maybe with journaling. I know there were some other tips on that, but what is it that I really get passionate about and I get upset on? What were the times that perhaps I have felt that I didn't have a voice? And maybe those things might be shame, or it might be feeling hurt or angry, or, oh, when somebody talks over me, I feel X, Y, Z, and identifying those very events that are triggers for you. The second thing I would say is, along with that, not just the journaling, but identifying who are people that you find to be safe, right? People that are safe people, and everybody deserves to have a safe person, but safe people may be different for you. Safe person is someone that might listen to you, someone that encourages you. And what are some of the characteristics of people in your life that are safe, right? Or who are the people that you deem as healthy? Are people, and write that down, right? Because those are the people that you really want to have in your life. When you're looking at different types of trauma, say you're in an event where it's overwhelming and you need it's hard to really calm down. I always say, like, in the trigger, it might be that you're really angry or upset. I always say that deep breathing, breathing out really actually calms our central nervous system, which is, we have our central nervous system, and there's part of our nervous system that's helping us relax and be calm. The other part of it, we actually want to boost our energy, and there should be a balance. And so breathing out, doing anything like a walk or drinking water actually helps relax our brainstem when we're in that moment. And they're very practical. Drinking some water, right? Maybe just even stomping your feet to know that you're grounding yourself in the moment and being in the present is helpful. And just being aware of what are some things that are safe for you. For me, it could be drinking water. It can be having that safe person, looking around, seeing, okay, like I'm touching my arm, right? Those are things that sometimes when we're in that distress that we just need. So hopefully some of those things were helpful to you. And I can go into something further if you have questions, or Felicia, if you have something that you want me to expand on. Does anyone have any questions about trauma, or perhaps even some techniques that you're wondering are supportive?
Okay, sorry, I think I just lost your beat there.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, yeah, I didn't know if you were, I think you waited for it. So I just asked, I didn't know if you had any other questions to expand on that, or if anyone
Yes.
had questions
I was saying, yes, so I was saying that I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd like to also know, like, I think most of the people as well do not know that they need healing or they need to be helped. So that's another thing, like, how do you know that you need it? So I'll come back to you with that.
Okay.
So let's hear from Kevin's. Kevin's, please. I just have a concern, like, around, you know, young generation or young people. How can they best brand themselves, or rather position themselves? Sometimes when you say branding themselves, they might think like they compare themselves with this, like, Coca-Cola brand, Adidas brand, which of course that's how it's supposed to be, like, you're supposed to be on that level, but they think like maybe that's too high for me. But basically, just from this platform, by how I look at how you've named your profile, how you speak, how you chat, how you type, I can tell probably, like, you know, how well positioned are you as a young person to pursue opportunities. And probably, you know, I could recommend you, or maybe I could, you know, speak in some way about you, based on just how you've put your first, you know, your first impression out there. So I want you to take us through, how do young people, how do they get to be opportunity ready, you know, in terms of packaging, branding themselves, because that has a lot to do with how well they know themselves, how much they appreciate themselves. And I want you to just take us through virtually as well as physically, because nowadays we're doing a lot of these virtual interactions. People are creating opportunities virtually. So how best can we, you know, be opportunity ready in terms of branding ourselves?
All right. Thank you, Felicia, again for having hi. One of the best ways for somebody to start the journey of branding themselves, more so if at all you're fresh from college, or you're looking to get into college. Let me start with a simple one. How do you do your emails? If today I share with you a card and tell you, this is Felicia Masaki from Nani, please, are you able to express yourself in detail in mail format and get attention of the decision leader on that particular end? So for me, the requisites and steps of personal branding, if I may take it up from a minimum, starts with, how do you do a formal mail? Do you have that particular skill and expertise of putting in place your description as you as a person in even 5 lines? and ensuring that you've grabbed the attention of the person on the other side. And this does not only apply to an email address, it could be even from a WhatsApp, depending with the respective social media platforms that you use. Are you able to go onto an inbox of a targeted person through WhatsApp and introduce yourself, and let me use a name for a participant, and introduce yourself by writing, hey, my name is Beatrice Chakali. Have your full stops, have your comma at the right place, express what you want, and await response, right? The second thing that I'll also want to put across is for somebody who is starting up, you probably might not have adequate experience that will position you in a much more competitive way than other competitors. One of the ways to start building your brand is through you trying to enhance your social capital. Your social capital should be from a point of whom do you know? Whom do you talk to on a day-to-day basis? And how do you relate with them? And an easier way to me on how I've been able to cultivate my social capital and used my brand to tap into that is by pursuing volunteering opportunities, right? Volunteering opportunities here could be this way. I'm using pointers which I hope somebody can leverage on. It could be an initiative geared towards tree planting. And you see a call somewhere by institutions saying that on day X, Y, and Z, we are looking at planting 1,000 trees. Trust you me, from my experience right now, if you position yourself through volunteering initiatives around education, around environment, around creating energy solutions, you end up tapping into a space that has key decision makers. And that's a way in which you start enhancing and positioning your brand on a minimum scale. The other thing also in this particular world of both hybrid and hybrid, that's a mix of both virtual and physical, it's important for you to start paying keen attention of some of the webinars or rather online events that could be your area of interest, and do this. You could go into a webinar and people are just talking and all. But one of the learning process that I've also had to adapt as Kevin's, more so to expand and network either my brand identity or organization brand identity that I work with, is I will go into a webinar and I will identify somebody who has interest with me. This particular person could be Dr. Amanda, for example, or it could be Adi. So what I'll do next after that is I will pick their names, then go to LinkedIn to search and find out, are they on LinkedIn? And chances are so high that these particular webinar participants or facilitators are on LinkedIn, right? And in that particular instance, what happens is you stand a chance of dropping an invite note by saying, hi, my name is so and so. I watched you on webinar X, Y, and Z, and I'll be interested in pursuing you further in regards to an opportunity within your organization. Yes, of course, yes, you at some point will get a response, and on some occasions do not get a response. But those things that I'm mentioning are just basic, simple, requisite measures that you need to employ as a person to ensure that you're able to expand not only within your territory, but also beyond borders. Last, and probably I will need to ask Felicia for guidance on this, is you building your brand is not a one-off journey. You building your brand is a gradual journey. And it depends now with how you start today. How you start today is one, by associating yourself with things that you're passionate about, things that you already believe that you can do best. And in the process, work yourself out across networks to ensure that there is at least somebody who knows there's a Daisy Igamba somewhere in Tanzania or in Dar es Salaam or in Kenya or in Nairobi or in Kericho who is pursuing an opportunity of education. And I will want to give a disclaimer. It's not an easy journey. It's a journey that you need to work hard on. And it's not a journey that comes in on silver platter. It's a journey that requires that personal introspection, that personalized thinking, working efficiently on yourself, and just ensuring that at the tail end, you are able to do what? You're able to really grow your brand beyond what people expect. Probably Felicia.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much for big package there. I hope our participants are taking notes, and I love how you just took it from the professional writing of email all the way to branding as a general way of doing it. I have some questions from the YouTube platform. Maybe I could just read them out quickly, and then probably Adi and Danny can as well chip in. So one asked about, now I don't know if this was before Amanda shared or after, but there was Paul who asked, I would love to know how we can overcome traumas, like how can people overcome traumas? So maybe we'll come to you, Dr. Amanda, with this a bit later. Let me also ask a question from Edmund. He asked, I have a question about the first session. We see that in our society, there are such kind of people who are invisible, and it's not easy for them to brand or position themselves. What can we do for them? So example of these people are like housemates, those in lower classes. So the question was around, they're usually working in the background, so they're probably not known, their contribution, their value. So how can they be, I think that's all about how can they maybe brand themselves, or how can they best position themselves, or their value. So maybe any of you panelists can come in, Adi, Danny, Kevin's, Amanda. Yeah, you would like to take on that? And we have a bit more questions coming in.
Okay. I think I will give my thoughts on that. First of all, it's about understanding who you are. If you recall, as I presented, I said, today you may be rich, tomorrow you may be poor, and so forth. It's about understanding who you are. So the fact that someone is a gardener, they are a domestic helper, or whatever role they may be, in order for them to be able to move from one place to another, and in fact, whether you are an engineer today, you're a manager, whatever, in order to move from one place to another, you need to understand who you are. Right. So the fact that you are where you are today as a domestic helper is not something that should define you. So you see them in the background, and they may remain in the background for as long as they define themselves as a domestic helper. But once someone understands their purpose and they understand that where I am today is part of a journey, then they're able to now move out from there and say, I'm building on my journey, building on my career, but this is the point I have to be at right now in order to achieve certain outcomes so that I can get to where I'm going. So it's about a mindset, first of all, to come to terms with who you are and where you are, and understand that life is a journey, and this is part of a journey. It's not the destination.
Thank you so much, Adi, for that precise explanation. So I will, Amanda, just let me know if you're ready to answer the question, and then I'll just have you on board. So maybe I can, should I ask another question?
You can, do you want me to talk about the how to heal from trauma or go into that?
Yes.
Okay, is it possible? I think for share screen, I can write.
Are you able to share screen?
Let me see. Okay, yeah, actually I can.
All right.
Thank you.
Because it's enabled.
I'm just going to use this whiteboard as I go, because I think one thing I'll go back into is trauma, right? Trauma is one or more events that can cause emotional, right, or a physical response in our body. So it's physiology, physical response, right? That can occur over time. Now, the one event can be a car accident. It could be witnessing bullying. It could be being bullied. And then there's things such as complex trauma. And that is events that happen. It could be over a week. It could be over years. So say domestic violence, right? Witnessing family or parents fighting. It could be sexual abuse. And again, I want to be sensitive to this because while you're listening to this, it may or may not evoke emotions in your brain or in your body. And so when you're understanding trauma, one big thing is healing is possible. That's absolutely true in our brain, in our heart, and even our gut, because that's the holder of emotions. But healing is a process. Think of an onion. I always say this. When you have an onion, you peel one layer at a time and you get deeper and deeper and deeper until you get to the end. And for me, healing is an ongoing, lifelong process. It doesn't mean that I can't heal big areas, but what it does mean is that being kind to myself and understanding that is important. When it happens with childhood trauma, what happens is sometimes our brain, or not sometimes, this is what happens. Our brain is resilient, and sometimes the trauma or abuses we see are so big that if we remembered them all, it would do a lot of damage. So our brain, in different studies, have shown that when we actually have big traumas, we subconsciously hide it. Kids are resilient, so they may still be in pain, but we hide a lot of those memories. And what happens if it's not dealt with, or perhaps we're saying, let's not talk about it, when we get in later years, our body still keeps score. One book that talks about the physiology of what happens in our body, and I'll explain symptoms, as well as what happens with our mind. We have a mind-body disconnect sometimes because of the pain of it, is Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And it's, I believe, 2014. And he wrote The Body Keeps Score. And The Body Keeps Score, he shares about what happens in our brain with the cortisol and how some people, they can suppress that emotions at first. Other people have the emotions, or it might bring something up later. It could be a trigger of a smell, a sense, a taste, a touch, anything in an environment. And we may or may not recognize that that's bringing us back to a memory. Now, the positive thing with this is trauma symptoms. If you're not sure I think there comes a time where we're ready to heal. If we're not ready, and you know people who are in the journey and they don't recognize that their need to heal, be patient, right? Depending on your relationship, they may or may not be ready. And we can't force anyone to begin their journey. We can hope that they will. And especially with complex trauma, you may have it suppressed where everything's going well and then all of a sudden, bam. And so symptoms of trauma, whether it be childhood or not, can be heart beating, trouble sleeping, maybe differences in eating patterns. A lot of eating disorders happen, whether compulsive eating or lack of eating. It can be stress or panic, right? We have different panic, a lot of sadness, or perhaps a lot of grief, and we're not sure why we're crying. It can be nervousness, looking around wherever we go in different places. And so just being aware that these things may or may not come up. Now, if you're ready for the process, some things that really support this, I always say, is counseling. Obviously, depending on support and resources, that may not always be available, but that's an important part of it, is having counsel. A second part can be identifying, I think I shared like those writing, the journal of how are you feeling? What's going on in your body? The simple practical things I shared before are literally helping your physiology. So when I said about drinking water, when you're having stress, that literally in your bottom of your brain brainstem, that will help your brain go from fear to terror, because that's where the different symptoms happen. It'll help you regulate, because what happens with trauma is our body dysregulates. It means that we're not thinking from our reasoning brain, our best reasoning, because we're in a state of stress. Our body is under stress. And so some things that help in that moment, even kids or adult, is taking a deep breath, as I had mentioned, writing and journaling, getting that counsel if you can, taking a walk, also identifying for yourself, what are safety things for you? Is it writing? Is it instrumental music? Is it taking, a jumping jacks if you need something to rev your system up? Is it drinking the water to help your system calm down? Is it taking some deep breaths out? So those are things that are helpful. Other things could be grounding. Literally, it's your senses and touch. So if someone's going into a state, I'm currently getting my counseling master's, but I also am a trauma recovery coach. And so what happens is if people are having a moment, they may be looking around to see something. What that does is it changes your mind to stop thinking perhaps on a memory or in that panic, and you start looking around, maybe at the sun if you're outside, or inside, or I'm putting my feet on the ground to know here I am, I'm present. Or it could be clapping, something with sense. Maybe I just take a piece of gum and start chewing it. That helps me to stay in the now and not be back in that memory. And so I know that there's probably a lot more to explain, but I wanted to go into just what is trauma, what are the symptoms, and that it is an ongoing process. But if people are ready, some little things that are really big things that will help them. So hopefully that helps you a little bit more, and I address that, but certainly if there's more questions I can answer.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That was really great. You've just given us a whole lesson on trauma and how to overcome that. I hope those who asked and those who probably wanted to know more have benefited from this. Thank you so much. Now I will move on to the next question. It was asked earlier on the chat on our live stream YouTube. Somebody asked, how do you know what you're doing is your purpose? And how would you know you have gotten a purpose? So I think Adi spoke about it, like one of the self-reflective questions on self-awareness is just asking yourself, who are you? What is your purpose? So probably, I think probably you can have just like a 1 minute from each one of you. Danny, I have not heard from you. Danny, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, Felicia. I'm here.
Yeah, so please, would you like to address that? How do you know what you're doing is your purpose, or how would you know you have gotten a purpose?
Okay, I will share my 2 cents about it. First of all, discovering your purpose, I can say it's a process. Sometimes I wonder, maybe what I think I'm living my purpose right now, maybe in the process I may realize it wasn't. Maybe it was just a process or a journey to my purpose. So it's a process, and in doing it, for example, in my case, there are some 2-3 indicators that I usually check when I'm doing something. The first one is if I'm getting the fulfillment as a person. There are a lot of things that sometimes I do or I did in the past, and the only thing I was getting is money, but which is good. But I, as a person, deep down as a person, I wasn't getting the fulfillment that I desired. So it was just like a routine or business as usual sort of thing. The other thing, or something that you may use as an indicator to know if what you're doing is truly your purpose is how does it align to your passion? Sometimes we are just doing things because it's what is there to do. But as you're doing something, it's very good to see, does this thing align with my passion? For example, if your passion is for people development, sometimes you just have to ask yourself, what I'm doing, does it really relate to people development? if I'm a teacher or if I'm a computer guy, what I'm doing, does it touch the lives of people? And in aligning, if what you're doing aligns to your passion, somehow in a certain percentage, it can give you a fully answer if it truly satisfies. Those are to me, those are two things that I really check on. There are some other things that I also do, but that is just me. I've realized some people, it may be different. Sometimes when I'm doing things that aligns to my purpose, I do not use a lot of energy to it. But that is just me. I've come to realize some people maybe they use a lot of energy, but with me, something that truly aligns to my purpose, I do it with so much simplicity. It can be very complex, it can be very tough job, but there's some sort of simplicity flow to it. Yeah, so maybe Adi can add on. I've seen you share this presentation.
Yes, thank you so much, Daniel. I think as you were talking, a few questions just came to my mind, and it's really hard to say that this is my purpose, but there are some questions that you can answer, and Daniel has put out a lot of those there. So one of the questions that is on this slide actually helps you get an appreciation of what your purpose is. You can see on the slide there, it says, what do I never have the energy for? But when you are living your purpose, or at least when you are somewhere there, you seem to always have the energy to be able to do that thing, right? There are some things you'll never have the energy for, but that thing, which is your purpose, you'll seem to be able to just get the energy even when you're asleep. It's something that you just have the energy for. And there's another question, if I'm not mistaken, which says, what do I regularly get complimented on? So some of these things, it doesn't really tell you that you're living your purpose, but it gives you an idea of your direction. At some point, I recall someone highlighted to me that I'm really good at passing on knowledge. And it wasn't just one person, several people told me that. And looking in hindsight, I realized, yes, I actually am much better as a teacher than as an engineer. And I then directed my path in that way. So I guess it's very difficult to know, and it's very difficult to say that I'm living my purpose, but answering some of these questions will give you an indication of whether you are in that direction or you are straying or in another direction.
Thank you so much, Adi and Daniel, for that. So we are left with like 5 minutes. So I just want us to have like just one, probably just one question, and then you can answer it however way. So in the current generation, we have this challenge where I know we're encouraging young people a lot to have like good sources, good company, people that they can support them. But it's not likely that, like, it's not easy for them to kind of identify those supportive people or positive people. So how would you help or guide this young generation to seek out the right people to support them or to guide them? Because some of this helps, like on self-awareness, getting feedback, asking other people. You need genuine feedback, and most of them probably do not have that, or maybe they have people around them, but they're either not very purpose related, or some are toxic. So how do they juggle through that? Maybe identifying the right people, getting rid of maybe toxic people, people that are not really there. And one other thing is about comparison. So a lot of young people with the social media, there's a lot of pressure to want to be somebody or to want to be something. And sometimes, that there's a lot of comparing, and that has a lot to do with self-awareness. So just however way you want to answer those questions, just to help this young generation to just, be better. Please, each of you, I want you to give your your advice or recommendation. And if there are any tools, any, like how Amanda shared, how to Juno or something practical that they can do, they can use to help them, please share thing. Okay, who would like to go first?
I can share. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'll draw from something that Daniel said. He talked about volunteering, and perhaps that is one of the places where you can tap into networks of like-minded people. You've got associations and networks such as the Lions Clubs associations, you've got Rotary, and there's so many other organizations out there that do volunteer work, that do a whole lot of different type of work, which you might be interested in. By taking time to join such organizations, contribute to the work of such organizations, you meet like-minded people. And apart from the core work of, say, what World Wildlife Foundation may be doing, you are meeting people who could mentor you, who could feed into your expertise and build you up. So volunteer, join organizations such as Leo's, Rotary, Rotaract, Interact, and all of those kinds of things, ISEC, and just be a part of a community.
Thank you, Adi. Who would like to go next? Dr. Amanda?
Yes, I want to speak to the finding good relationships. That takes time. Especially if you're used to having unhealthy relationships. And so I think what's important is thinking, who are people that you can talk to and uplift you, perhaps are sharing positive things. You might also have people in your life that want to give you advice, again, when you ask for it, but you know that their heart is in a good place. So for example, if people are giving you feedback, they're giving you constructive feedback, giving you the positive, and then perhaps asking you for advice. So maybe it's okay, like these are some things that you may want to consider changing, but they're not cutting you down, saying words about you that are horrible, or maybe talking about you with other people. When you have healthy relationships, you also can share with the other person, trusting that they're not going to share it with everybody else. Healthy relationships also include having, we hate the word confrontation, but confrontation doesn't have to be negative. What it means is that you and another person can come together and share how you're feeling, and maybe talking about how you may have felt in a situation. And even if there are some, it's hard to get through as a harder conversation, you can come back later and you're stronger because you actually shared it. Unhealthy relationships are where people avoid talking about how they're feeling, or you keep it in, and it ends up being really unhealthy for both people. And so those are some important things to look at. People that are uplifting you, people that you can share even hard things with, and you can come back together and listen to each other. Friends that listen, friends that are not gossiping or sharing negative things with everybody else and not addressing them with you. And friends that really are there, right? They're there for those hard and good times, and you know that they'll be there. So that's important, especially, and even when you have mentors, similar things, mentors that care about you, mentors that are not, really that taking advantage. Like it's a two-way street. You have equal opportunity to share and listen to each other. So those are just some of my things, just thinking about healthy relationships.
Thank you so much, knowing that you're an expert in that. Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing that. Who would like to go next between Danny and Kevin's? Okay, I see Kevin's is already set.
For me, I'll just like to put across an affirmation that when it comes to branding, even if you get an expertise like me today, for example, the whole conversation around branding is not instant. It's something that you work on gradually. It's a process, and on basics in terms of how let's look at it is start looking at what you do best and get into the journey of refining it and repackaging yourself and seeking feedback, as our team facilitators are saying, because that builds you up gradually. Then the other thing that probably I've discovered along the way is I've had Adi being asked, what's your purpose? And he's saying he still does not realize whether he's in purpose or something. But a thing that I would want to tell somebody who's looking at starting today is, as you keep trying to reimagine what's your purpose, try and cultivate an experience out of it. And an experience out of it is you as a person, whether it's, let me pick a participant's name here. If it's Dennis Minja, you need to now start asking yourself, you as Dennis Minja, if I told you in a group of people, how do they feel about you? Are you this particular person who is always referred to, Dennis, you're a person of good vibes? I mean, you know, if it turns out that you start getting such type of comments, you're a person of good vibes, it means that when people are present around you, you're positive. It's like you're a bubbly persona who brings out energy onto people. And that could be an example of a trait and a character that you need to keep on cultivating and you need to keep on enhancing. Last but not least, just for the sake of time, remember, you as a human being, you are an experience. An experience here is the way somebody wants to drink Coca-Cola, the way somebody will want to take pizza, the way somebody will want to go into a hospital, or the way somebody will refer to a teacher or an academician. Ask yourself, as Irene, as Juma Kulwa on the participant list, as Margaret Alfred, ask yourself, what type of an experience do I put across to people? When people are around you, do they turn out sad? Do they turn out happy? Because the moment you start visualizing your brand as an experience, or you a human being as an experience, the more you get better at it. But then again, remember, the journey around branding, the journey around your self-awareness is progressive. You'll not instantly be able to achieve it, but gradually walk the journey of doing it. And I believe for the participants present on this particular call this afternoon, this morning, I believe you're in the process of growing your identities, growing your brands, and I hope you can get much more better. I will drop in a link on the chat box for anyone interested in just trying to figure out what Kevin was saying. I hope from that particular article done, you'll be able to maybe read it at your convenient time and see whether it's basic steps that you'll be more than willing to follow. So thank you. And Daniel Mlabo, over to you, please.
Thank you, Kevins. Danny?
Yes, so the colleagues have said it all. Just mention a few things. Of course, the first thing is, as young people, we need to work. Kevin has said, for example, branding is an experience, what people experience from you. So in order for them to experience from you, then that means you have to be doing something. So I can say, as young people, we should, sometimes we talk too much and work so little. We spend times on conferences, conventions, these big forums with big talks, but we do so little. So the first thing is work. We really need to work, and there's no alternative to that, unfortunately. The other thing is we need to understand that things are a process. You spoke about comparing to others. We need to understand that it is a process. I have a lot of friends. I've seen a lot of people who sometimes end up in depression and all that. But we need to understand that this is a process. We are seeing Tesla today, but if Tesla was a person, Tesla would have been at least 18 years old right now. So you can see since 2003 up to today, it's a process. So in whatever we are doing, let's just monitor the progress. We should understand that it's a process and it may take time. Maybe you're 20, you're 25, and you may boom at 40s, 50s. It can happen. So just understand the process. Important thing is to make sure that you're making progress. Then the other thing is people. In whatever we do, we need people. You need to connect to people who are far superior than you, who have more than you, and you also need to connect to people who even have little knowledge than you, and even the people who have the same knowledge with you. Either way, just connect to people. You're not living in an island or something. You need people. You can, for example, just starting from here, maybe Felicia, you have known me well. But if I was someone here, for example, I would have just gone and Googled all these names, Kevin's, Randiek, Amanda, Hellman's, and LinkedIn invites, exchange some chats and all that. I don't know, maybe we may not talk every day, but at least you'll know there's a certain Daniel somewhere. And one day I may give them a call. And to be frank, that is how Felicia and I met. Shared a breakdown and we connected from there and all that. But that's a story for another day. But just connect to people who have done something. And it's good to understand that not every person who has made progress in business is actually good with sharing knowledge with others. Not that they're selfish, but they may not be good. But just find a way that you can extract something. And the last thing is knowledge. Just find knowledge. Our mindsets, the way we function, they do not know. For example, what I'm doing right now, it's not that I'm telling my mind, go to 2004, get this knowledge from this book and share with it. No, it's a knowledge that is there. So whenever we come to across different situations in life, when we have the knowledge, our minds automatically extract information and knowledge from there that we apply. So just learn if you're into business, not only learn about business, learn about people management. HBR have some very good articles and books. Learn about normal processes, about social life. Sometimes people don't buy from you because it's not about marketing. Maybe it's because about understanding the cultural context in order for them to buy from you. And the last thing I can say is if you're into business, I just encourage you. You can just Google business model canvas, BMC. It has like eight different things. Very simple questions. Answer them honestly. It asks you about your value, what is your unique selling point, value proposition, your target market, your income model, and all that. Those are some of the simple questions that if you answer them, at least they mean someone. So thank you very much, and have a great evening, everyone. I should be running to some weddings right now. That's why I'm on a suit.
Thank you so much, Danny, for such great insights. I hope everyone has been, taking notes. This has been an awesome presentation. I just want us to give a round of applause to all of our facilitators and panelists that have just been powering us up this evening, afternoon, morning for some of you, but it's been very insightful. I am challenged. I've just been awakened. I've just been motivated and inspired to just do more and better. So I would love for us to continue, but we have more stuff coming. So please, let's pause right there for now. Thank you so much, our good people. Thank you, dear participants, for just being patient and just sharing and learning all this time up to this point. Please take note of all the the sources, the tools, the learning points that you have gotten from these sessions, and just work on them. Everyone here said, these are not new things to your ears, probably. These are not new words, new tactics. They're things that you just need to work. So if you just take off one thing today and just start working on it faithfully and in a committed way, I am sure you will not be the same. So just make sure that you put it to work. So let me close this for now. We're going on a short break, and then we'll be back 1:15. That is like 10 minutes. So please, let's just, grab something like water or tea. Do not log off. I'd like to encourage you not to log off. And let's be back both in our YouTube and here, and we'll be moving on to the next part on career. So I would love to hear you, see you, more engaging, more interacting. Would like to have more of you who are participating, especially on Zoom, to just come on board and ask your questions live. So if you just, be more open and share your lessons, experiences, and questions as well, that would be really great. So till in 10 minutes, let's please meet. Let's have a break. Thank you so much, and see you soon. So it's just a break. So you can, if you want to post, to share, to chat, just feel free. It's just that we're just going to be on break. We might not address everything immediately, but thank you so much.